The sun has gone down at Hangman's Hill, and the ghost at Misery Corner isn't walking tonight. So, welcome to the Weird Tales Radio Show, your weekly fix of ghost stories, urban myths, witchcraft, magic, and folklore. And now, here's your host, writer, award-winning journalist, best-selling author, and sometime werewolf hunter, Charles Christian.
Hello and welcome. My name is Charles Christian. I'm the host of the Weird Tales Radio Show, and for those of you who count, this is episode 77 of the paranormal radio show that sets the industry standard. This is an unusual show this time in that we've got one large interview, so we won't be having any of the other little side stories, and sadly that also means no Janie, but she will be back next week. So, about our story. It's an interview with David Young, who is a UK-based paranormal and UFO researcher and podcaster. And we're looking at the long and mysterious tale of the Rendlesham Ufo Sightings, which took place in December 1980. So we're coming up almost to the 40th anniversary. And what's fascinating about this story, or in fact rather depressing about it, is that very little progress has been made on working out what did or did not happen. Was it just some natural phenomenon, flashing lights? Was it the military doing something mysterious with secret test projects? Or was it an actual UFO encounter? And say, unfortunately, the whole saga of many years has been hijacked by a number of individuals, including one who doesn't appear to have even been there, telling their tale and distracting everyone from what was really going on and any further investigation. Anyway, I say David Young is here to explain all about it. Let's start off with, David, you just describing your interests and what you do, and then we'll go on.
Hello, Charles. Nice. Thanks you for the invite onto your lovely show. Obviously, my main interests are UFOs, but I am interested in most paranormal things, really, in general. Mm-hmm. I think I should really. I suppose I should start where my earliest experience, maybe.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. We always like to know what got you into it.
Right. Well, right from when I was about between 2 and 3, I was just about communicating, I think, with my parents, and I lived in London, and we lived in an old house, a fairly old house, but we rented the top part, and the lady downstairs had the bottom half of the house. Now, I only found out later that she had died just prior to my experience here, but I was actually in my cot, standing at the side of my cot, mm-hmm. and in came this purple mist, and I remember it swirling around the room, coming up to me, and I remember shouting to my father, or my dad, was I always called, not father. Yeah. Look, the purple mist. No, actually, I was screaming. There was nobody in the room, actually, and I was screaming at this purple mist swirling around the room. And I remember my father coming in and saying, "What is it?" And I'm pointing to this mist, and he couldn't see it, mm-hmm. but I could see it. And I remember I actually could see it, and I actually saw it swirl around and swirl back out the door again. But he never saw it. But I think in my baby type way, I was saying, "Look, can't you see it?" I mean, I don't know how I was communicating. I don't think I was really speaking properly, but probably at the time when you're just about beginning to communicate a little bit, but that always stuck with me. And I did actually mention that to my father some years ago. I mean, my father's passed away now, but some years ago, I did mention it to him, and he remembered that event, and he said, yeah. I said, well, I always wondered what that was. Mm-hmm. I've asked a few people what the meaning of that was, and something to do with purple mist does actually come into some sort of a paranormal thing where there's something to do with the colour purple. I'm not 100% sure what the meaning is, but yeah. But that was kind of my first experience.
Mm. And then presumably, like most people, you grew up, the day job came along.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is when I was living in London.
Yeah.
We moved. In fact, I'm saying now, I've got no paranormal powers or anything like that. I'm not psychic or anything like that. Although we've all got, I think we've all got it in us.
Yeah.
And we do sense things and stuff like that. But so we moved from London in '66, I think it was, or '65, somewhere around about there. '66, I think it was. And I came to live in Basildon, Essex. Now, of course, I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was walking home from my girlfriend's late one night. In fact, the early hours of the morning, and this would have been about 1967. And I saw this orange oval object going across the sky, and it was like I wouldn't say it was like a light, but it was like an incandescent orange, and it was quite large, and but it was completely silent. It definitely wasn't an aeroplane. And all I could describe it as like a large oval object going across the sky, and it was kind of pulsating, but it was all different shades of orange. It's very difficult to describe it, but I was watching it for a good few minutes. I mean, at the time I had this sort of, I don't know if it was a feeling of, a feeling of realisation that there are things out there, you know, that's... And I think from then on that I started reading about UFOs, if you like, and funny enough, around about that same time, Eric von Daniken came on the scene with Chariots of the Gods,
Yes.
and they did a big articles in the Sunday papers about it. And I started reading that. I thought, wow, this is really interesting. And I thought, I've got to get the books. You know, I did. I think I read Chariots of the Gods probably about 3 times.
Yeah.
And there was also Immanuel Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision, and Ages in Chaos. I started reading things like that, you know, and I started thinking, that's not just a sky up there with all these little dots. I started thinking like the depth of how deep the universe is and stuff like that. And it used to blow me away thinking, is that really endless? It just goes on with no end, and you can't really imagine it. You can't. It's too much for the human brain, I think. But I'm probably going off on a tangent here. But but that was the way my mind was started to think and to work. And really, I mean, I just sort of. I started collecting scrapbooks actually of newspaper articles of things like ghosts and anything paranormal, UFOs and things. I mean, I lost those many years ago through marriage split-ups and things like that. Yes. And I really regret it now, you know. But from then on, I just sort of really I was just I don't really call it a fan. I don't know, enthusiast about UFOs. Nothing more than that. It was only a bit later, since I've moved to Suffolk, that I seem to have got, I don't know, engulfed in it deeper than I could ever have imagined. I mean, years ago I read about the Rendlesham Forest incident, as we probably all have.
Which was in
That was in 1980. Oh, sorry, December 1980.
And for our non-UK listeners, it's worth noting that Rendlesham is described as the UK's Roswell.
It is indeed, yeah, Colonel Holt and everything. Well, you know, the strange thing is, like 15, probably 20 years ago, reading about I had the book. I think one of the earliest one was Left at Eastgate, which is now off the market, although you can still get it. But we might go into that. But I never realised that. I mean, I could never have dreamed that I would actually get to know these people. I mean, I've met John Burroughs. I know Jim Penniston quite well. Colonel Holt is a good friend, and to actually have been reading about all this and then finding these people are actually. I mean, Jim Penniston's a good friend, and so is Colonel Holt. I'm
looking at your photographs here. You've also met Eric von Daniken.
I've met Eric von Daniken 4 times now. Yeah. The fact that he, remembered me, it was something quite mind-blowing to me, that someone like that. Someone I'd always sort of looked up to and thought, well, he was probably one of my first, I'm calling him a hero, but a person that I looked up to his research. I know there are some arguments about some of the research, but what I think people don't realise is Chariots of the Gods was asking the question. It wasn't saying this was exactly what was fact.
Yeah.
Because Chariots of the Gods has got a question mark on the end of it.
Yeah.
And people seem to forget that when they start querying some of the. It was him that started making me open my eyes and start thinking about, well, this...
Because that was really the first book that we'd say was the Ancient Astronauts.
It was one of them. There was a few others. There was...
we're talking when it first came out, mid-60s?
It was about 66, I think it was,
Yeah.
But I think there was a couple of others, like there was... mind you, those other ones may well have tagged on to what Eric Von Daniken was doing.
Yeah.
But... it was, and and when you do look at Ancient Aliens, I don't know if your listeners will.
I'm sure they do.
I'm sure some will.
Yes.
All right, some of these things that are on it may be a little bit outlandish, but there's also a lot on there that. How did they do this stuff? You know, because it's just amazing to me. And I always watch it, and I think it's an amazing show, you know.
Yeah.
Although you do, I met Giorgio as well. He was.
Oh right. Oh, that's him up there, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, with the hair, you know.
Yes,
aliens, it's got to be aliens, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
No,
Chelsea's looking at a picture on the wall.
Yes. His hair's not quite as mad looking as it is.
No, he was a bit tidier that day with a suit on and everything.
Anyway, so you moved to Suffolk.
Yeah.
And
that's about 6 years ago.
And you are, what, 20 miles away from Rendlesham, probably?
I don't think it's that far. I mean, I can get there in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Oh, right. Yeah, so
I know the back doubles now, so...
So there's Rendlesham, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. And the other story you've got some insights on is, which goes back to Roswell, is the movie clip that came out a few years ago, supposedly of the Alien Autopsy.
Indeed. Yeah.
And it was made by a UK-based.
It was, yeah.
Producer.
Yes.
And you know
Spiros Polaris, yeah.
Yeah, you know him and material on that. So let's start with Rendlesham then. I mean, in a nutshell, what was the incident?
In a nutshell, it was supposed to be over 3 nights, although that is questionable now.
Yeah.
It's certainly over 2 nights. The first night was when John Burroughs and Jim Penniston, in a nutshell, it was a bit longer, a bit more long-winded than this, but Jim Penniston and John Burroughs went out and they apparently saw a landed craft in the woods because they'd gone out and they'd seen lights and been reported back. Jim Penniston was supposed to have touched the craft. John Burroughs was supposed to have been knocked back or something. But the thing is, they've both got different memories about it. And I wouldn't call either of them liars or mistaken because everyone's got different stories about it. It seems to have been a lot of confusion over the years. Now, the second occurrence was... See, I always had questions about the second occurrence. Like, was it the second occurrence on the same night or was it the second occurrence on the second night?
Yeah.
But there was a young female soldier, I'll call her, because they're like a security police. She was apparently in the woods, and apparently a ball of light entered the vehicle and left it. And apparently she was in a panic, and apparently the story goes that she lost a weapon in the woods as well, which shouldn't have been there anyway. But that was But so whether that was actually the second night or a second occurrence on the same night, I'm still not 100% sure of. But the night of when Colonel Holt got involved was when... And
who was Colonel Holt?
Well, Colonel Holt was actually the deputy base commander of Bentwaters.
Yes. And again, for filling in, RAF Bentwaters was an American, was it?
Yeah, it was connected to Woodbridge and Bentwaters were basically a base where the A-10s were stored. And remember, 1980 was the height of the Cold War.
Yes.
And there's conflicting stories about what was stored there, like nuclear weapons. It has been kind of half confirmed that there were nuclear weapons stored there against UK regulations.
Yeah.
You know, but okay, it was a long time ago, and And I think it was a time when the Greenham Common women's were at Greenham Common.
Cruise missiles, yes.
So basically, I imagine that the Americans were keeping it there and thinking, well, all the heat's over there with the ladies at Greenham Common, and we've got it all here.
Yeah. So Bentwaters and the other airport,
Woodbridge.
And Woodbridge, were RAF and US military establishments.
Yes, they are. They kind of rented it out from the RAF, basically, don't they?
Where they stored weapons and aircraft, and there may well have been stuff stored there that the authorities didn't want to disclose because technically they shouldn't have been storing them there.
Shouldn't have been storing them. Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Now, I mean, the official responses were, there's been various ones, but one of them was that it was, all everybody saw was a glow from a lighthouse in the distance, and the other one was that it may well have been the flashing lights on a police car or a security vehicle.
But they were up in the air. I mean, you've got to remember, these were security police, and they were supposedly highly trained, especially Colonel Holt, who'd been in the in the Air Force for many years, and Jim Penniston had been in for about 8 years. So they knew about the lighthouse. They knew it. I mean, otherwise you'd have been having UFO reports every night, wouldn't you? You know, so that kind of blows it out of the water. And also there was actually radar reports as well coming in from which they checked out on. So really, it blows that lighthouse theory out of the water. Really, they were quite aware of the lighthouse. I know when they did, I think the first night when Burroughs and Penniston were chasing, they were sort of looking at this light, and they saw it go out of the woods and across the field, and they were going out towards where the lighthouse was. And at one point, I do believe that they did actually see where the lighthouse was flashing. And Jim Penniston told Burroughs, that's the lighthouse now we're seeing. You know, but of course the lights they were seeing were further up in the air. And I believe the same thing happened with Colonel Holt. They didn't see a landed craft. I mean, all this rubbish about aliens landed at Capel Green is complete rubbish. I mean, there was just lights up in the sky that they were chasing across. That field, which they called, which is a farmer's field, was actually not called Capel Green. Capel Green is actually opposite where the farmer's field is. Now there's the stupid Larry Warren story that aliens landed in the middle of Capel Green, and there's discoloration in the farmer's field to prove it. Well, that discoloration in the farmer's field, we know for a fact, was there in the 50s. So it wasn't because of a landed alien craft. So that kind of blows that out the water as well, you know. So, and he's the only one that says he saw aliens. So
everybody else then basically saw lights in the sky.
Coloured lights apparently. You get some from blue to red, and but they were mainly in the sky. But they did see lights going through the woods as well, in a controlled manner. And apparently some of the trees were damaged high up. As if something had gone through there. Okay. Now, again, being sort of devil's advocate, there's always the possibility, because we know military authorities are very bad at PR, and they hate to fess up when there's a security issue, or they're running a secret project, and it's been spotted, so it tends to be gone. So there's always that possibility, which you can then deal with in a moment, that the lights were some covert experimental craft or whatever, but it was human origin. I mean, I will say, Colonel Holt doesn't know what it was. Jim Penniston doesn't know what it was, although he says he touched this craft and he had some sort of download of binary, which you may have heard that story. And these books had just come out actually, and which I've just started on. I would never call any of these people liars. They went through some sort of an experience that I think most of us would not like to go through, because a lot of them have suffered mental problems and physical problems ever since. And a lot of obviously the controversy that's gone on over the 40 years. You know,
Yeah.
And I will say now, none of them have really made money out of it, apart from one or two that have selling books like The Left at Eastgate.
Yes.
Which was in the bestsellers list, but has been since kind of it's been removed by the publishers for proven lies, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And
so what you're saying is that the credible witnesses that we know were actually there haven't exploited it.
I wouldn't say they've exploited it. No,
they
I mean,
haven't.
John Burroughs he wrote a book with Nick Pope, but really it was Nick Pope's book anyway. Really, as Encounter in Rendlesham Forest, I think it was. Jim Pennison apparently had another 80 pages that was supposed to go in the book, but was never put into it. Apparently, that's why he's got his new book out himself.
Mm-hmm. So where are we now? As you say, it's coming up for it'll be next year. 40 years.
Yeah.
Where is the current state of play? I mean, there's been nothing satisfactory come from official sources explaining it, but over 40 years, obviously, the conspiracy theories have run amok, if you like. So what's the current state of play on Rendlesham?
I don't think you'll ever have an answer, basically. All you can do is go. I mean, Jim Pennison's book looks really interesting. I've only just started it, but it's about 700 pages. So that he says that's the most definitive book there is at the moment. And looking at it, I believe it probably is, because it's like a timeline.
Yeah.
And he tries to cover everything right from minute by minute, exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. But obviously he was only involved in the first night. Mm-hmm. But he would know things about what's happened since, like the tall stories and everything like that. Yeah. Because he was actually a staff sergeant and he had top secret clearance, and he wrote a lot of the rules for the weapon storage area as well, for the weapons and stuff like that. So he does know a lot more about what happened. Mm-hmm. You have to think that John Burroughs was just an airman first class, so he wouldn't have been privy to a lot of stuff that Jim knows. Yeah. Colonel Holt, obviously, another step up. He would know a lot about whether he's holding stuff back that he knows. Who knows? I mean, I do know him quite well, and I've spoken to him quite a lot. But he's told me privately he doesn't know what it was that he saw. Yeah. He can only he thinks it was something extraterrestrial. Mm-hmm. But it's only his supposition. Yes. It's the same as my UFO that I saw. I believe it was extraterrestrial. It could have been interdimensional for all I know. But, it's just one of those things that you make your mind up about something. All you can say is it wasn't normal. Yeah. So... Yeah. But he had to make the Holt a report out, which was called the Holt Memorandum, which is I've got up on the wall there. Anyone can check it out on the internet. He tries to describe what happened over those nights, and but he never wanted it released. Yeah, it was basically it was never meant to be released. Yeah, but of course people started asking questions about what happened over those nights, and with the freedom of information requests, that's how it kind of had to be presented. Because it was basically a report made for the US government, UK government. Yeah. Because it happened on UK soil from a US base. Yeah. Because obviously the US soldiers had to leave the base to go out into the woods to see it, so they had to make some sort of report about it. Right,
and presumably they would have been armed as well. And
that was the thing. You see, on the first night, apparently John Burroughs, they did take arms into the woods, which they shouldn't have done. Yeah. Apparently. Yeah. On the third night, apparently they did actually not take arms into the woods. Yes. I think you might be getting a different story from a film that's supposed to be coming out, and then you can see them all marching around with M16s in the woods, which didn't happen. Yes.
Yeah, this is the I think Lawrence Fishburne.
No, it's not. No, it's a film called Cable Green, which has been bubbling around for years now. It's supposed to be coming out about a year ago, but there's been several things that we've actually called shots on and said that's not right, and I think it's still not been released yet.
Right, because there's also at least under development supposedly an 8-parter for Amazon or Netflix or something with Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that, but
that's going to be a TV miniseries. Yeah. But,
I do know that Colonel Holt didn't want to be involved with Gabriel Green.
Right.
He didn't want to be involved with the TV series because he was asked.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to be involved with several things. So to actually say anyone's trying to make money out of it, if he did, he would be trying to get involved with the Gabriel Green film. He didn't want to get involved with that because it was basically the Larry Warren story.
Yes.
Which is kind of based on as soon as the book was withdrawn, that seemed to be going to the process of making that film.
You're listening to the Weird Tales radio show with Charles Christian. Something wicked this way comes. Weird Harvest Press presents Harvest Hymns, the sweet fruits and twisted roots of folk horror, a 2-volume set of books investigating the music of folk horror, featuring contributions from some of the biggest names in the field: Candia McCormack, Johnny Trunk, Maddie Pryor, Sharon Krause, Jim Jupp and Kemper Norton, to name just a few. Available now via lulu.com. 100% of all Weird Harvest Press profits are donated to wildlife charities.
Welcome, fool. You have come of your own free will to the appointed place. It is time to keep your appointment with the Wicker Man. The Wicker Man.
If you want to grow your business, save time using the latest tech, and look great online, Weird Appeal Digital can help. We have a free, yes, that's free download listing 40 digital tools, apps and resources to help you grow your brand, promote your project, generate leads and reach your audience. Just go to www.appeal.digital/weirdtales for smart, effective digital design, and your free download, go to www.appeal.digital/weirdtales.
Fill us in on Larry Warren.
Larry Warren was trained. He joined the Air Force in 1979 as a security policeman.
UK.
No, he's American.
He was American. Right.
Okay, and he was assigned to Bentwaters in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is fact. There's no getting away from that. But he says he was on guard duty on the third night, and there's evidence to suggest that he wasn't, because he was only in the Air Force for less than 10 months for a start, fully. There was an incident, obviously it's quite a big story, so to try and put it in a nutshell is not very easy. But they wrote, after the incident in 1993, I think it was, they wrote a book called Left at Eastgate. He was looking for somebody to write a book with him, Peter Robbins.
Right.
Now, the book itself, if you read it, I mean, I've read it 3 times before I realised that there was something not right with a lot of it. And like I said to you just before we started here, Larry Warren wrote this book before the days of Google and the internet and stuff like that.
1993 is pre-internet age.
And
yes.
he thought he could say what he likes and nobody could check it out, really. And now it's so easy, if you've got the book out there, it's so easy to check things out, and they just don't tie up, you know.
Yeah.
They just don't match to and people's other stories as well. And there's not many people that say that he was actually out there. Colonel Holt said he was never out there, and obviously the evidence that we came up with when we did an investigation. It's called an investigation because we did investigate it.
Who's we, by the way?
Oh, well, Sasha Christie.
Right.
Knew him for 10 years as a friend. She's a good friend of mine. At that time, I was still a Larry Warren supporter.
Yeah.
I'd read the books and I was a friend of Peter's and stuff like that. And then, because I was talking to Sasha quite a lot, we became closer. I started realising that what Larry Warren was saying was lies and that what she was saying was truth. She started giving me lots of information and stuff. And then we started looking at things together. And believe it or not, we formed a little investigation group. And it was James Francis Welsh, Alison Dunlop, Sasha Christie and myself, and there was a few people working in the background.
Yeah.
So we started investigating his actual claims and in the book and everything.
Yeah.
And Sasha had already done quite got a lot of advanced information about that. So really, all this is really Sasha's beginning. She's got massive files on him. But we did actually find a lot more stuff. We started talking to Chuck Holt, Colonel Holt, and other people involved in it, and we put together quite a file, and we found out that Larry Warren, basically, his entire story is just fabrication.
Yeah.
Well, we started putting this information to Peter Robbins.
Yeah.
And eventually, Peter, he wasn't really open to it at first, but eventually he said, "Yeah, I've got to come out. I've got to say this information you've given me, this evidence is just so vast that I've just got to capitulate to it, basically." And I think there was a lot of emails going backwards and forwards between Larry Warren and Peter Robbins, and you could see there was a lot of animosity there. Larry Warren saying about, "Oh, you're not supporting me," and everything, and well, you've been lying to me, and all this sort of stuff, as you would get. And eventually, Peter Robbins just disassociated. He said, "That's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm disassociating myself from you, Larry Warren." And he made a massive, great public statement about it. He went on a few radio shows about it. Anyone that's out there, if you go to Peter Robbins' page, you can actually still read this massive, epic statement.
Yeah. Is that on Facebook or?
It is on Facebook somewhere, but if you go to Peter Robbins' actual website, you'll see it all on that.
Right.
Just look for Peter Robbins disassociates himself from Larry Warren, you'll see it. But it's an epic statement.
Yeah.
And a lot of it contains evidence that we gave him,
Yeah.
with all this stuff about doctors and everything. But he just kind of, and from there on, there's a lot of animosity began.
One thing that's been established is that one of the main chroniclers of Rendlesham has been making it up for the last nearly 40 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we don't say 40, probably 30, because it took them about 8 or 9 years to get this book on the go.
Yeah.
But of course, Peter Robbins has been supporting Larry all that time, so he's wasted his entire writing career supporting a fraud.
Yeah.
Where he could have been doing some real research. I mean, he did do real research. In fact, Peter's part of the book is very good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factual stuff in it, so the book is not entirely rubbish. Just you've got to really just sort of go by the Peter Robbins stuff, apart from where he's supporting Larry.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's kind of
So where are we then on the saga? Because this is one where, if you like, the whole thing's been hijacked, derailed by infighting between.
Yeah, I don't like to use the word infighting, but I like the word investigation and finding frauds. Infighting is not quite because it sounds like everyone. I know there is some infighting between the people involved because they've got different memories of stuff, but
but I mean, that if you like, it's been derailed by people pursuing their own agenda that had got nothing actually to do with the facts. So there's been a lot of wasted time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll cut Larry Warren out of the picture. So sort of where are we now with Rendlesham? It's still really no more than there were mysterious lights in the sky.
We're still at that point. There's still people. There's still a faction out there that says it was a lighthouse.
Yeah.
There was another story that appeared a little while back about it was a SAS practical joke, which is also another.
Yes, that's been in 40 times. I think.
That was an April Fool's joke. That was apparently that was David Clark, and he said it was rubbish. Because if that would have been the case, people would have died.
Yes.
Because the Americans thinking that they were being invaded, people would have died.
Yes.
It would have been a big issue.
Yes.
Because it was the height of the Cold War. You think they'd have thought the SAS are playing the joke on us. They'd have thought it was the Russians invading.
Yeah.
So.
Which is not totally unreasonable, given you're relatively close to the coast. So it wouldn't be out of the question that if they were that inclined. Right. So basically, Rendlesham then still remains the mystery it was when it happened.
Yeah, it's still a mysterious place now. I mean,
Yeah.
you go to the woods at night, it is weird. I mean, I've seen stars stop and move and stop myself.
Right.
2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So we've seen, you get these amazing orb pictures as well. Or you see, you take pictures in the dark. You can take like 10 pictures, they'll all be black, but in one picture you'll have this mist in it, and it's not visible to the naked eye. Now Brenda's well known for taking pictures like that. Brenda Butler I'm talking about. You can see several of her examples of her work if you go to her website, or her Facebook page I should say. I don't think she's got a website. But she's very well known for having some sort of an ability to take a picture where you can't see anything, but you get these shapes and of amazing orbs.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen one orb with my naked eyes, and we were actually in the car park, and I saw it at the same time as Brenda did, and I said, did you see that? Or she said to me, did you see that? Well, I know we both saw it at the same time anyway.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I saw that. And it was like a red orb went across the car park. So what that I don't know.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah. And of course, anybody going there during daytime, the Forestry Commission have now made a UFO walk around there, haven't they?
There is a UFO walk
with a fake UFO at the centre.
Which I understand is not is just a convenient walk for cyclists, or I say walk and cyclists. It's not the genuine UFO trail, really, as I understand. And the UFO monument is not in the place where the UFO supposedly landed in the woods. Yeah. So they put it in a convenient point on a little hill, basically, which is nowhere near where the actual landing was. Yeah. And there was only one landing. There wasn't one at Cable Green either. I thought I've got to put that one in again.
Right then. Let's have a look, as you've got them lurking around here, the various books. Just give a name check for...
Okay, well, the book we're all talking about, I was talking about Left at Eastgate by Larry Warren and Peter Robbins. It was withdrawn by Cosimo, the publishers. Yeah. It was previously published on a hardback. Yeah. But this one, you can get it on eBay, but it's going for silly money sometimes, and sometimes you can pick it up for a couple of quid. Right.
Then we've got this one here.
The only thing I would recommend is Peter Robbins' part. Right. This is Jim Penniston's latest book. Yeah. It's only just come out. Just this minute.
And it's called
The Rendlesham Enigma.
Yeah.
It says book 1 timeline, so I presume there's going to be more. Yeah. It's written by Gary Osborne as well. And from what I've read so far, and I'm only up to there, it's very, very minute by minute, basically. Yeah. And there's comments by everybody from different YouTube videos, comparing what they've said in one, and then finding the anomalies. Yeah. So that one's very good, and that's just come out.
And there's this one here.
Colonel Holt is called The Holt Perspective. Now that's written by John Hanson, good friend of mine, with Colonel Holt, who's also a good friend. This came out in 2017, I think it was. But there's also a second volume, which is on the way. 16 it came out. There's a second volume of The Holt Perspective, which is actually going to cover everything that's happened over the last couple of years, especially with the Larry Warren saga. Right. Which was kind of hit on slightly within that book. Yeah, right. So, but the volume 2 will actually cover it more.
Right. That's
with the latest expansion. Yeah. No, sorry, the Holt Perspective.
The Holt Perspective, right.
Volume 2.
Right.
I think it's going to be called Truth Not Fiction or something. Right. The book I've got in my hand here is by Peter Robbins. Now, I mentioned earlier, but I'm doing a conference in Woodbridge. I think I've got to sort of join this into this. Yeah. Colonel Holt at Woodbridge in Suffolk in September the 8th. Yeah. Now, in 2015, I called the conference Colonel Holt Returns to Woodbridge. Now, in 2015, Colonel Holt did a conference there, which was quite controversial, I suppose we should say, because he was saying, I think, all the things about Larry Warren that have come out later, although I think he's always said it. But what happened on the back of that, because Peter Robbins was still supporting Larry Warren very much, he wrote a book saying about all the things that was wrong, which Colonel Holt was saying in support of Left at Eastgate.
Yes.
So this book here supports Left at Eastgate.
Yes.
But he's since withdrawn that as
Right.
well. He's taken that off the market.
Right.
Now, if you look in here, you can't see it in there,
Yes.
not on film. But Peter Robbins, when I saw him at Glasgow, that was when it was.
Yeah.
He wrote that in the book. He said to David, a book I wish I'd not had to or been compelled to write, but nonetheless they needed to be told. Nonetheless the story needed to be told. Your friend Peter Robbins. Okay. So as I say, he's withdrawn that book.
Yeah.
Now when Colonel Holt was here a little while ago, I got him to write that in. He says, I bet Peter wishes he'd never written this. Colonel Holt, Charles Holt. So, as I say, he's withdrawn that book and apologised to Colonel Holt and everything, and Nick Pope and everyone else.
Yeah. And then there's this one here, I've noticed.
This is the Haunted Skies book, which basically is it really, because it's 1980.
Right.
This is a lot about the Rendlesham Forest incident. Is in it. On the back is Colonel Holt and everything.
But this is a fairly fresh. This would have been hot off the presses then, is it?
No, this is not printed in 1980.
Ah, right.
This was actually printed later. I think John Hanson's books. This would have been 2013.
It's 2013.
This
right.
one.
Oh, right.
This is part of the Haunted Skies series of books that John Hanson does.
Yeah.
This happens to be just up to 1980. I think he's done 12 volumes at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think he's still on the 70s. Oh no, sorry, he's not quite reached the. Because what he's done, he's had to do revised volumes, but it's quite a.
Right, and then
story.
I'm just looking here at your Colonel Holt returns to Woodbridge, and that's on the 8th of September this year on a Sunday, and it's £20 a ticket all day, which include other speakers, limited number of tickets, and if you're interested, contact David Young 2QN at yahoo.co.uk. Yep.
Yep.
And that fills in that. Right, so that's Rendlesham. And now the other story I wanted to ask you about was the Roswell UFO Autopsy saga.
The Alien Autopsy saga.
Alien Autopsy.
Well, as you know, Charles, I've got my own radio show on called Paranormal Dimensions.
Yeah.
Now, a few years back, I started talking to Spiros Malaris. He's the man who created the Alien Autopsy. I went to a presentation in London, which he did, because he came out of the woodwork basically saying that I am the one that created the Alien Autopsy.
Right.
Because Santilli had sold it basically to the TV stations and made a lot of money out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what questions you want to ask me, because that again is quite a complicated story. The actual film was actually filmed in Camden Town, London.
Right.
It wasn't not Roswell at all. It was actually made in a back room, and Spiros went to great depth to get detail from the time. Roswell. He even went to he even got film from the time, from 1947, and he spliced on a bit of film. So
Right.
to make so that he could do the old hand trick. Say, well, look, that's the film. We can prove it's a 1947 film, but of course it was spliced onto newer film.
Yeah.
And of course, as I say, it's a very complicated story to tell, but that film was actually shot in Camden. The things he went to great lengths to make sure was there's a telephone on the wall with a curly wire.
Yeah.
Now, so people could say, oh, there weren't curly wires then, but in actual fact there were in America. They did have them on the base apparently.
Right.
So even that went down to that much research into it.
Yeah.
He even made an autopsy table, which he says you cannot. He made it out of he was a panel beater or something in his day, and he made and he said you cannot find another. I challenge anybody out there to find another autopsy table like this.
Yeah.
Which proves that he did it and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
There was some tent footage, which they called the tent footage, which basically showed alien artifacts supposed to be from the spaceship.
Yeah.
They created all that first of all. The alien that they had on the table was supposed to have had had 6 fingers. Now, a lot of the reports of aliens had 3 fingers.
Yeah.
So Spiros went the other way, you see. You say, well, I'm not going to make it match what they say.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it something else so that questions are asked about that. Say, well, if you're going to fake something, why don't you fake it to match the other thing, you know? So, you know, to put all these things in. And it's like the black eyes, the black slanted eyes. He thought it would be a good idea to make it so you you've got like a sunglass and you peel it off the eyes. So the eyes are not black at all, to make it, give it a bit of realism again, you know. As I say, there's lots of things like that. Spiros, he's obviously he's challenged quite a few people to, because believe it or not, there are still people out there that believe the alien autopsy is real.
Yes, that's the whole point, that it's thought to have been real,
But
and footage. But in fact, as you say, it was all put together by a guy in.
So Santilli came out because he basically hired, because it was supposed to be, as far as Spiros Polaris thought, when it was done, he thought it was going to be a bit of a joke, and in a week or so we'd all say, "Oh, we fooled you, we got it."
Yeah.
But it didn't go like that.
Yeah.
Spiros did the job for Santilli, went away, left it alone, thinking, and little did he know that Santilli was saying that he had this alien autopsy film, selling it to film companies all around the world.
Yeah.
Spiros came along a few years later, not knowing what the hell was going on, and apparently he was sitting in his living room one day, and something came on the television about the alien autopsy. And he said, "What the hell? This is all my film he's talking about," you know. Yeah. And he was as shocked as anybody to say that, because Santilli's putting it out. This is real film from obviously from Roswell.
Yeah.
But and of course, I think at the time Spiros couldn't come out and say anything, or there was legal things going on about copyright and stuff going on at the time. And there's probably some wranglings about how much money Santilli had made out of it and everything. But of course, Spiros eventually did come out and saying, "Well, I made that," and he's actually gone through a copyright process now, where he's put his copyright on it.
Yeah.
There was other people involved, like John Humphreys, who had made the dummy, and I think he'd done the film props and things like that before, because people were saying how lifelike it looked.
Yeah.
Some people said it didn't, but that's another story. But I mean, I've got to admit, when I first saw that video, I had the VHS video of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was real myself.
Yeah.
Then I had the DVD of it later. When you saw it, there were certainly questions: can this really be real? And I think a lot of us were taken in by it. Obviously, know now it was definitely false, definitely fake. And especially knowing Spiros, he's not a liar. He does. He doesn't mind what question you ask him about. He can answer it. And to say, I did a 2-part story, a 2-part show with him. It was only supposed to be in 1 part, but it was so good and there was so much more to tell. I said to him, "Do you want to do a part 2?" And we carried on. And there was still more we could talk about, But that's, I don't know what else I can say about it. The alien autopsy was a fake.
Was a fake.
Yeah. So anyone out there that thinks it was real, then take another look.
Oh, that's great. And really, to wrap up, what are your current projects? I mean, obviously you've got the event.
Yeah, I've got my
in September.
I've got my show that I do, the Paranormal Dimensions. A recent show I've just done is I've done a 2-hour or more than 2-hour show with Jim Penniston actually about his new book. That'll be coming out. It's not out yet. My show will come out probably in a couple of weeks when I've done.
This is on his Rendlesham Enigma.
Yeah, the Rendlesham Enigma, which is very, very interesting. The show I did before that was also about Rendlesham, was Ronnie Dugdale. I don't know if you've heard that name. Yeah. But I regard him as probably one of the best researchers on the Rendlesham case. That turned out into more than a 2-hour show also. So I'm sort of involved in mixing my own shows now, whereas the producers used to do it. I do all my own mixing and everything now. So, as you know, because you
exactly,
you know the story.
There, yes.
Yeah, you know the story beyond that.
Yes, that one. There's no alien conspiracy. Yeah. Oh, right. And have you got any investigations or any projects coming up?
No, we do go out on some ghost hunts occasionally with the East Anglia Paranormal Investigation Group. I know Gary Bradfield quite well, and Sharon. We did have one plan to go to there's supposed to be a haunted house called The Cage. They made a little documentary about it on the television.
Yes.
But that was cancelled because apparently the vendor, the person who owns it, is going to put it up for sale.
It is up for sale at the moment.
I think that was sort of postponed. We did do one at where was it?
The Cage, I believe, was it was a witch. It was supposedly a prison, and there was it was the sort of town lockup, and there was supposedly a witch or somebody.
That's why it's called the Cage. It must have been a cage in there of some sort, or some sort.
Yeah.
And they used to lock witches up. I don't know, but Gary Bradfield says the actual alleyway at the back of it is probably more haunted. Because he says he reckons it's been worn out now. That all the residue I don't know what you call it.
That's the sort of stone tape. Concept.
He reckons it's kind of worn out with the different groups they've had there since. Yeah. But he said the alleyway is still quite...
Right.
He's picked up things out there before now.
Yeah.
I haven't really got anything else planned apart from the conference, which is I've got a lot of work I've been doing on that. There's a lot of expenses and things to cover. And I've got the other speakers and things coming. Yeah. I'm still arranging things around that. So apart from that, no, I've tried to spend as much time as I can trying to read.
Yes.
And apart from doing my own shows and everything. So really, that's kind of about it at the moment.
Well, that's brilliant.
I'm certainly not going to give it up anyway.
No. That's brilliant. David Young, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Charleston. Nice to come on.
And that's it. I'd like to thank David Young for his time, and we hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back for another episode of the Weird Tales radio show. More paranormal tales to thrill and delight at the same time next week, and Janie will be along as well. And until then, here's a little thought to see you off into the dark. As the sky grows dark and the moon glows bright, be wary of strange creatures that walk at night. Good night.
Black Shuck, the demon dog of East Anglia, is baying at the moon, which means it's time for us to go. You've been listening to the Weird Tales radio show with Charles Christian, your weekly fix of ghost stories, urban myths, witchcraft, magic and folklore. You can keep in touch with us online at www.weirdtalesradio.com, by email to weirdtales@icloud.com, and on Twitter @urbanfantasist. Join us again next week for another edition of the Weird Tales radio show. Good night.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.